Good news is your dates are here.
What's the bad news?
They're dead.
Oh, you're so cool, Brewster! Everybody's a suspect! Hey, Ted, where the hell's Corkscrew? Don't fuck with the Chuck!
So in the left corner, we have Freddy Krueger, the Springwood slasher. And in the right corner, we have debatably the biggest mama's boy. Who's gonna win in Freddy vs. Jason? Let's talk about it. Pinhead was almost in the ending in one of the scripts, which would have been so much fucking better than the ending we got. I like the ending we got, but that would have been fucking kick-ass. Ultimately, they both would have wound up in hell at some point, and Pinhead was gonna shoot his chains out and grab them, and he was gonna say,
Now, gentlemen, what seems to be the problem?
which would have been so fucking cool because Doug Bradley is such a badass. The promoting for this movie, they had like a UFC weigh-in. In the special features I had on the DVD I used to watch as a kid, they literally did like a fucking weigh-in. Ronnie, you also thought that Freddy won. Might be a hot take, so I want to know what you guys think in the comments. Who do you think won? That's the ultimate question. Who do you guys think won? My boy Ian Somerhalder was almost cast as Will Rollins. Director Ronnie Yu said he was too pretty. And I mean, can you blame him? The dude's jawline is impeccable. He makes Giga Chad look like a Giga Chump. The movie almost had a Clue-style ending where it had 3 different endings. This kind of makes sense because growing up, I always heard that if you go to theater A, Freddy wins. If you go to theater B, Jason wins. It was always kind of like a rumor I heard growing up. I did see this movie in theaters. Trust me, it was a bit much because there's a lot of nudity and like I was a kid and my mom like took me. But it was ultimately like a fun experience. Flaws or not, which there are. It's just such a iconic movie, and I can't wait to talk about it, so let's dive right into it. But the movie starts with a backstory of Freddy Krueger. You see him in like the boiler room making his iconic finger glove. He's doing like a voiceover saying he was the Springwood slasher. You get to see like his binder full of kids, which is just like an moment. He kind of reveals like the plot of the movie within the first minute of the movie. He's saying that the town forgot about him, so he lost his power. He searched the bowels of hell to find Jason. He's gonna resurrect him and kind of spread the fear of Freddy Krueger again, which is like a genius plan. Freddy also gains his power from fear. Like I said, the plot was very good. It was kind of underwhelming in some parts throughout the movie. So we see a skinny dipper at Camp Crystal Lake. She's waiting for some guy named Mike. She hops in. She starts like freaking out a little bit because it's dark, she's alone, and she keeps hearing noises. She gets out and runs through the woods and sees Jason. So he's trailing after her. He ends up taking his machete and like stabbing her through the fucking tree, and you see the tree kind of split, which just goes to show like how fucking strong this guy is. We get a cameo from Mrs. Voorhees, but sadly it's not Betsy Palmer. Turns out it was just Freddy. He was just saying, Jason's been asleep for so long, it's time to wake up. The children been very bad on Elm Street. I need you to go there and take care of them. So that's going to spread the fear of Freddy, and that's ultimately going to gain him his power back. We get to see some of the main characters. You see Gib, Kia, and Lori. They're playing Marry, Fuck, Kill with the Three Stooges. Gib's douchey boyfriend. I mean, this dude is a fucking turd. His name's Trey. He shows up with his buddy Blake. They're trying to hook Blake up with Lori. He takes Gib upstairs and they obviously have sex, and just the way he's like, oh yeah, fuck me, baby. It's just so fucking corny, but you can't help but laugh. Blake has the smooth and smart idea of trying to talk about feng shui to get Lori to like him.
You know about feng shui?
It just fucking fails miserably because that's not how you talk to women. Gib goes to shower and Trey ends up getting like the most violent kill, and this is the VHS rewind moment.
Clear!
Clear?
Jason ends up stabbing him a bunch of times in the bed and folds the bed in half. And it kind of reminded me of the sheriff from part 6, the way Jason folds him in half. But this one's just so violent, so awesome, so fucking cool. They end up running out in the street, and Deputy Stubbs, he ends up picking up the kids and taking them to the police station. The sheriff is there, and he's kind of like all his other police officers just kind of keep it down. He's like, it's just a coincidence. It's not Freddy Krueger. They just don't want to say the name to spread the fear again because the town ultimately forgot about him, and they kind of treat him like a disease. Lori's at the police station and she remembers the name. But she's in like this dream sequence, and it's a really cool sequence. She goes through the police station and she follows like dripping blood for some fucking reason. She passes like all the missing kids and they all turn. And it reminded me of like the intro to Goosebumps. Just really cool. But she sees a little girl. She doesn't have eyes. She's saying, Freddy's coming back, warn your friends, warn everyone. Just that image, especially growing up when I was a little kid, seeing it with my mom. Little girl with no eyes, like talking and like being scary as shit. Yeah, it fucked me up a little bit. We see Blake and his dad kind of get into like a little argument. Freddy shows up because Blake's drunk and passes out. We see Freddy attack him and he tries to kill him, but he's not strong enough yet. So he pretty much says, I'm gonna let Jason have all the fun. He wakes up, Jason kills him, he kills his dad as well, cut his head off, but he caught it in his lap. And he kind of uses it to shield Jason, which was kind of like a dick move. We get to go to Weston Hills. We get to meet Mark and Will. They're watching TV. Will sees that the murder happened at Lori's house. So him and Mark come up with a plan to break out of Weston Hills and go see if she's okay. The plan is to kind of like Mark act ridiculous like a monkey, but he ends up farting on the glass, which is fucking hilarious because farts are always funny. As they tranquilize him, they take him back to the room. He ended up stealing the head officer's security badge. So they end up breaking out and going to go see Lori at school. So Lori insists on going back to school. She doesn't want to go to sleep. She just wants to be around her friends so she can kind of have like a peace of mind. The chief tells Lori's dad that Mark and Will broke out of Weston Hills. We kind of figure out that her dad works at Weston Hills, and we ultimately find out that he had Will committed. They're kind of stressing out because now everything's starting to go to shit. Once we're at school, we get to meet Linderman though. This is really dorky. You kind of feel bad for him because like you want him to get the girl. We get to meet Freeberg and Shaq. They're pretty much saying that there's a huge rave party and they're gonna do it in Trey's honor. Mark and Will show up at the school. Mark's bright idea is to tell Lori in front of the whole school about Freddy Krueger. He realizes that he screwed up the town's plan. No one really knew about him anymore. He was just kind of in the past. It was like a myth. He fucking spills the beans, spreads all that fear, so Freddy's starting to get stronger. Once Will reconnects with Lori, she kind of collapses, so they take her to the hospital, and Kia goes up there with her. She starts dreaming about getting a nose job. Freddy does the famous
Got your nose!
fucking flings her nose right off. There's this bitchin' ass rave in the cornfield. I don't party, I don't drink or smoke or anything like that. I would fucking go to this party. Like, it looks sweet. Linderman shows up. He, like, rides his little moped through the cornfield. And Shaq kind of holds him down with his buddies and kind of bully him and try to make him drink all this beer. Gib kind of gets really fuckered up. She passes out in the cornfield, but she's dreaming that she sees Trey, but it's obviously Freddy. She follows him to, like, this barn, and when she's inside, it turns to, like, the boiler room. We get to see, like, a really discounted Billy Idol. He's, like, trying to do something very inappropriate to Gib's body. Gibbs starts going against Freddy. He's starting to terrorize her a little bit. But right when he's about to kill her, Jason stabs the Billy Idol dude and stabs Gibb. And like it's starting to really piss Freddy off because like he needs kills also. Like he wants to kill these people while spreading the fear. So he's like at full power, at full potential. But Jason keeps like getting in the way. Jason's just on this rampage. Like he cannot be stopped. So Jason is walking through the cornfield. He comes across Shaq and his buddy. It's so funny just cause like the way they're trying to like bully and intimidate Jason. He just snaps his neck. Shaq ultimately ends up catching Jason on fire. There's a big chase through the cornfield. Throws his flaming machete and kills Shaq. He ends up going on this rampage and killing pretty much all of the ravers. But you get to see one guy. Jason hits the beer keg. Doesn't even hit the other guy, but all of a sudden there's like a giant gash in his chest and just spraying blood everywhere. It's a little things like that that just kind of make it like, really? Will ends up telling Lori that he saw her dad kill her mom, and that's why he was institutionalized. He got sent to Weston Hills. Lori's dad shows up, pretty much like starts attacking Will. Lori ends up asking him about like, how did mom really die? And she kind of like connects the dots. She ends up running away and reconnects with Will. We get to see Mark sleeping. He's going through his house. He sees his brother who passed because of Freddy. Freddy got him. We see him in the tub, and it's played by fucking Scott Farkas.
He had yellow eyes.
Which was a nice touch. Nice little cameo. The part that really kind of freaked me out as a kid is when Mark stands up and he sees Will and Lori right in the window. He gets the slash marks across his face. out of nowhere. Like, it just made me like shit my pants as a kid. He ends up burning the message, Freddy's back, into Mark's back. Stubbs shows up, pretty much says he's going to help them. They kind of devise a plan about how to go about Jason and how to go about Freddy. There's a dream sequence. Freddy ends up going and attacking Laurie, but she rips his ear out. Obviously, if you've seen Nightmare on Elm Street, that's how all of them are. They realize that they can pull him from the dream world into the real world. Bada boom. That's the plan. The gang ends up going to Weston Hills to get all the Hypnosil drug because it's a sleep suppressant and they don't remember their dreams when they take them. So they feel like that's their best option. Jason ends up showing up and obviously shit's gonna hit the fan. Freeberg ends up ripping this fucking joint. This giant Freddy worm comes out with a bong and they start smoking together. It's very odd and strange, and that worm looks god awful. It looked god awful back in 2003. And it looks even worse today. He ends up getting inside Freeberg's body, kind of controls him, and he takes all the Hypnosil and dumps it down the drain. He ends up getting these tranquilizers. Jason ends up killing Deputy Stubbs by electrocuting him, and I thought that part was sweet because he hits the electrical panel, and as he's trying to go around him, he grabs him and ends up like electrocuting him too. You get to see his face like all charred and everything. It was a really cool effect. I like that part. Freeberg takes all these tranquilizers, stabs Jason in the neck. In the midst of doing that, he gets cut in half, and it's a beautiful, clean cut, super gory, super graphic. Awesome, love it. But now Jason's in the dream world. Freddy has the upper hand, and depending on how you guys feel about Freddy, how you guys feel about Jason, all that kind of goes out the window in this scene because there's a ridiculous like pinball machine scene. I still trying to process it after all these years, why that's in there and how it even makes sense, because it doesn't at all. It's a ridiculous sequence and you can't help but laugh at it. Freddy ends up realizing that Jason is terrified of water, which makes zero fucking sense. I mean, he's in water a lot. He's in a waterfall or something. He's just got water dumping on him, and he reverts back to being a kid. That, to me, like, is the biggest, what the fuck? How does that make sense? Laurie ends up getting tranquilized, like she ends up being put to sleep because she wants to enter the dream world and pull Freddy out, but she ends up going to Crystal Lake and she sees Jason being bullied as a kid. He gets like pushed in the lake, and since he can't swim, he ends up drowning. We see the counselors, one of them is actually Freddy, and he's railing some chick. That's a nice little one-liner.
It's not my fault this bitch is dead on her feet.
Freddy ends up trying to drown Jason, and we get to see him spitting all his water out. So Kia tries to give him mouth to mouth, but they end up crashing the vehicle. You see Jason's body fucking just fly straight out. It's awesome. It's so corny. They arrive at Camp Crystal Lake finally. Laurie's still in the dream world, and we get to see like Freddy looking extra burnt, extra demon-like, and I think that's his best look if you ask me. Laurie ends up waking up, and it's Jason versus Freddy, round 2. This time, no holds barred. It's real world, shit's going down. We could see Freddy do like these weird kung fu kicks, and he's jumping up and like elbowing him in the fucking head. It's like, what? But ultimately, it's just a giant bloodbath. It's so fucking good. Linderman ends up dying. He gets flung across the room. He gets impaled by like a little wall bracket. We get to see Kia. She's trying to talk shit to Freddy, but Jason's right behind her. Gets her. She ends up flying 50 yards right into a tree. They're still fighting. One of the best moments during their fight, though, is, like I said before, I do not like eyeballs at all. Freddy takes his glove and stabs him right in both eyes. And then a couple minutes later, we get to see Jason rip Freddy's whole arm off, completely out of the socket, detached. Laurie ends up dousing the whole dock with gasoline. She ends up lighting on fire. It explodes. They go flying off. Just when you think they're safe, we see Freddy like walk on the dock with Jason's machete. Jason comes out of the water, stabs him in the chest. They both end up going back in the water. Laurie grabs Jason's machete. They stare at each other for a minute, and she just tosses it back to him. And that part never really made sense to me. Like, why would you give him back his machete? The next morning, we see Jason kind of like all healed up. He's walking out of the lake with his machete, and he's holding Freddy's head. We get to see the famous look at the camera and wink. I love that ending, but like, dude, if Pinhead would have showed up, it would have been way fucking better. They didn't have the rights to that character, so ultimately that was scrapped. Who do you guys think the winner is? I mean, I love Jason as a character. I think he's obviously the stronger one. Freddy is definitely a worthy opponent, but I'm not the biggest Freddy Krueger fan. He's got a couple good movies. He walked away holding Freddy's head as a trophy. So to me, he got the W. But I want to know what you guys think. Let me know in the comments. But yeah, this has been my review for Freddy vs. Jason. It's definitely a wild movie. One of my favorite movies growing up. And like I said, it was a staple for not only myself, but I imagine a lot of people. We got to see two horror icons just going at it. And that's ultimately like what we want to see, you know? We always talked about like who would win, Michael Myers or Jason if they ever fought. It's kind of like what you want to do. You want to see like the matchups and shit. Yeah, I want to know what you guys think about it. Let me know down below. Don't forget to like, subscribe. Until then, see you later.